Good evening, Pastor Matthew, Hollywood United Methodist Church. As we said, as a catch-up from my derelict duties over the past few days, we are doing two-a-days for a little bit. So this evening, we will continue. We are in Luke 14, and it reads, One Sabbath, Jesus went to the house of one of the rulers of the Pharisees to eat bread. They were watching him closely. There in front of him was a man suffering from edema, a swelling under the skin. In response, Jesus asked the legal experts and Pharisees, "Is it lawful to heal on the Sabbath?" But they kept silent. So Jesus took the man, healed him, and released him. He answered them, "Which of y'all, if it was your son or your ox fell into a well on a Sabbath day, wouldn't immediately put it out?" But they could not answer this. Then, when he noticed how the guests chose the places of honor, he told them a parable. When someone invites you to a wedding feast, don't take the place of honor, because someone more respected than you might have been invited. Then the host who invited both of you will come and say to you, "Give this person your seat." In disgrace, you would then go and take the least important place. But when you are invited, go and sit in the lowest place, so that when your host comes, he will say to you, "Friend, move up to a better place." Then you will be honored in the presence of all the guests. For everyone who exalts themselves will be humbled, and whoever humbles themselves will be exalted. Then Jesus said to the one who had invited him, "When you give a luncheon or a dinner, don't invite your friends or your brothers or your relatives or your rich neighbors. Otherwise, they might invite you in return, and you would be repaid. Instead, when you host a banquet, invite the poor, the maimed, the lame, and the blind, and you will be blessed, because they can't repay you, and you will be repaid at the resurrection of the righteous." When one of those reclining at the table with him heard this, he said to Jesus, "Blessed is the one who will feast in the empire of God." But Jesus said, "A man was giving a great banquet and invited many. At the time of the banquet, he sent out his servant to tell those who were invited, 'Come, y'all, everything is ready now.' But every one of them began to make excuses. The first one said to him, 'I bought a field, and I must go and see it. Please excuse me.' Another said, 'I bought 5 yoke of oxen, and I'm going to try them out. Please excuse me.' Another said, I just married a woman, so I can't come." The servant came back and reported this to his master. Then the owner of the house was enraged and said to his servant, "Go out quickly into the streets and lanes of the city, and bring in the poor, the crippled, the blind, and the lame." The servant said, "Master, what you commanded has been done, but there is still room." Then the master said to the servant, "Go out into the roads and along the hedges, and compel them to come in, so that my house will be filled. For I tell y'all that none of those who were invited will taste of my banquet." Now large crowds were traveling with him. He turned and said to them, "If anyone comes to me and doesn't hate their own father, mother, wife, children, brothers, and sisters, yes, even their own life, such a person cannot be my disciple. Whoever does not carry their own cross and follow after me cannot be my disciple. For which of y'all, wanting to build a tower, doesn't first sit down and count the cost to see if you have enough to complete it? Otherwise, when you lay the foundation and aren't able to finish it, everyone who sees it will begin to mock you, saying, 'This human began to build but wasn't able to finish.' Or what king, when he goes to battle against another king, will not first sit down and consider whether he is able with 10,000 to oppose the one who comes with him with 20,000? If not, while the other is yet a great way off, he will send a delegation to ask for conditions of peace. In the same way, then, any of y'all who doesn't renounce all that you have cannot be my disciple. Salt is excellent, but if the salt becomes tasteless, with what can it be seasoned? It isn't fit for the soil or for the manure pile. It is thrown out. Whoever has ears, let them hear." This is the word of God for us and for many, the people of God. Thanks be to God. Our discussion on Luke chapter 14 comes from Ron Cressini. Ron is currently serving as the chair of the Hollywood Unified Board, what we call the Hub. He's a local civil servant, has served in many different places, so it's great to see what he has to say. He first says that Luke 14 asks us tough questions. All these questions that Ron has here, they're somewhat rhetorical, but they're ones that maybe we all should be asking ourselves. He says, do we put compassion above rules and appearances? Do we boast to show importance, or can we show humility and take the lowest seat? Who's on my own guest list? Only those like me or those forgotten by others? What excuses do I make to skip God's invitation? Am I willing to count the cost and follow even when it hurts? I mean, those are the questions to be asked here. And they're rhetorical, and in some ways they're hypothetical, because we can't envision time when we'd actually have to make those decisions. But it starts to really put things into perspective and how we value things and how we rank them. He talks about, Ron brings up also the fact that this is the second chapter in a row where we get the Sabbath talk. And Ron does, like so many, remembering, people who grew up in a time when Sundays in particular, there was nothing you could do, right? You'd wake up, go to church, come home, maybe have a family dinner, probably like 2:00, and that was really it. Like, you couldn't go out and do anything. And now it's something else. Now, obviously, everything except for Chick-fil-A is pretty much open on Sunday. Most things outside of like governmental work is still working on Sunday. Among pastors, we say, we're not the only game in town anymore. Like, for people to make a decision to go to church, to worship, there's a lot of things they have to say no to. Realistically, the olden days, you didn't have to. Your basic thing was, do I want to stay home or do I want to go to church? Because you couldn't go anywhere else. Now it's like, okay, do I want to stay home? Do I want to go to church? Do I want to go shopping? Do I want to go out to eat, go out to brunch? Do I want to go to the game? Like, there's just so many other things there, and it now is almost like a rubber meets the road situation. It didn't take a lot to honor the Sabbath, if that is Sunday. And this raises other questions about the Sabbath. As a pastor, the Sabbath and me have a slightly different relationship. It's why actually in the United Methodist Church in the Baltimore Washington Conference, they often ask, and my DS, my district superintendent, asks all the time, what is your Sabbath? Because Sunday is a working day in a lot of ways. Like, how is that a day where we can recharge? And yes, many pastors, we are able to, during worship with our congregations, worship and be fed in many of the same ways, but we're also giving the sermon, we're thinking, and it's hard for us to click off, where are those ways? And clicking off is now more of a choice we have to make, because otherwise the society will choose to keep us clicked on in some way. Ron asks about the Pharisees, if they're the same ones that he's talked to. Probably not. As he's going from town to town, more than likely there's just maybe local people. It's just people. It could be people who are also traveling around. It could be some of the disciples, some following in the crowd around, just trying to see what's going on with this guy, if he's somebody, causing a problem. But it could also just be like, you come in town and maybe there's a Pharisee living there, and you come there. He asked a question about, how can I apply Jesus' instructions about whom to invite to my feasts in our daily life? That's a really interesting question, because one of the things that's going on in Jesus' day is that if you invited somebody to your feast, for example, if they were somebody who felt like they were the same at you or lower than you, they're probably going to invite you back because they have to owe the favor. And if they're below you, you're like, I'm not going to go. But you would also then go ahead and extend an invitation out to somebody way above you. And if they come, that's the greatest thing ever, because society would say you must return the favor. It's kind of like, remember when I got married, there was this sort of recommendation. We didn't really do it. We probably could have. Of like, send wedding invitations to like random celebrities, politicians. And they're probably not going to come. They're definitely not going to come. Maybe they'll send you something. Right? So there's all of that. And so, yeah, I'm trying to think, like, what would kind of be that that way of thinking about, because what Jesus is saying is basically invite someone who can't return the favor. It's the same way that Jesus says earlier in Luke, lend to somebody knowing that you're not going to get it back, right? Where more than anything else, it's get yourself to a place where you can extend an invitation, extend love, and you don't even think for a second about whether you're going to get it back. I don't think it's so much about necessarily, okay, I need to go out now and find somebody who can't give me anything and give them something, right? So that it won't be that way. I don't know if that could cause other problems. That could cause to places of pride. Um, and that you end up in the place of the parable of the Pharisee. I thank God I am not like this tax collector over here. I give a tenth of all my income. I do all the other is, where can we get to the place where this quid pro quo thinking is not even a part of it anymore? Um, I don't know. I'm trying to even think of what that could be like. Part of me is like, would that be about working a job and not expecting to get paid? Like, that would be an interesting thing. I know people who've done stuff like that. But yeah, you'd have to think in some ways of like, what is a place where I would expect to get something? Not even like I'm going to be mad if I don't get it, but it's just like, I'm going to do this and I'm going to expect to get something back. It could very well be this Christmas season. Like, find some, well, this is hard, right? Part of me is like, find somebody that you can give a gift to that 100% you are not on their list to get shot for. You will get nothing back. I'm a little hesitant on that because if that person is like me, maybe like you too, like the prospect of somebody giving you a gift and you not being able to return is really, really uncomfortable. But maybe that's a growing area in our O's is can we receive and not feel the need to give back? Not like it comes from a place of, what's the word I'm looking for here? It's not like it comes from a place of like, I just expect it, like I'm owed it. It's more of a, yeah, this is just like they're loving me and I don't need to feel the need to make it even. There can be that. There's a lot that can go down on that way. I also have questions about the understanding to hate family and life. This is a really hard one. It's come up in our Bible studies quite a bit. And where I kind of am resting right now is in this nature of gray area, maybe, of just this understanding of like, if we believe you either love or hate something, well, then maybe what Jesus is asking us to do is rethink that, is to re-understand. And maybe you're in a family where it's never going to become a problem, but maybe you are. Maybe it's a question that you have because maybe, it's just this assumption that like loving your family and loving God are one and the same, but maybe they're not. And maybe loving them, maybe there's something about learning to love your family, not because they're the family you're born into, but learning to love them because they also are a creature of God. I wonder what that would look like to instead look to the people who you have a connection to. And maybe it's not so much loving them less, but being that the way that you love other people, that you are able to show the same sort of love and the same sort of expectation of relationship. That could be an interesting thing to really think about there. He says, how might the generosity shown in inviting those who can't repay influence our attitudes towards giving? Do I give out of kindness or out of a sense of service? I actually don't know if those second things, sense of kindness or a sense of service, are different, or one is bad. Like a sense of service is like, okay, I must do this. But I think so much of what discipleship actually does, we talked about sanctification in the earlier study today on 13. It's about a changing of our way, where it's not like, when they pass the plate around, for example, am I giving because I'm expected to give? Am I giving because I was taught I'm supposed to give? Or more so, am I giving because this is what is right? This is what I do. Like, I think it's about a way of becoming and a way of being in this world, where you don't even, it's not so much about service and kindness. It's hard to really figure out what the difference there is. And there's a lot of questions here, and obviously we've been going on here for like 15 minutes, but I really like the one at the end. He says, how do I ensure that I am not like the tasteless salt in our Christian walk? Love that question. Love that, right? There's a wonderful thing, like, how do I stay salty? Or sometimes say, you're called to be salt, you're not called to be salty. But this is one of those things where you struggle sometimes with how much of our modern understandings of salt, for example, come into it. Salt doesn't lose its saltiness, as I understand it. Or if it does, it takes long time. Like sodium and chloride, that's just what they do, right? It's an elemental thing. And so you're talking about decay and half. I don't even know. I'm not going to speak out of places where I don't understand. But like, for example, if you took your salt shaker at home and you put some out and kind of put it up, you wouldn't say this salt has gone bad. You would say, "Who would you guys put in there? What you put in there, right?" Because not salt like that's just not a thing. Like I remember there was a was it new salt maybe that came out for a while, like this understanding of trying to bring the salty flavor without the sodium and stuff. I don't really know what that is, but like there's this notion of if we are called to be salt of the earth, if by the grace of God we have been made salt of the earth, then we can't actually lose our saltiness. But any cook would know, we can mask our saltiness, right? I mean, there's a lot of recipes out there or little hacks you can have if you oversalt something. How do you get the salt out? It's hard. Some might say impossible. There's little stuff, but like, so that instead there's this notion of what am I putting on? What other ways am I being other than the salt that I am made to be? And I'm really trusting in God's grace to let the salt, I was gonna say shine, but let the salt flavor come through. So yeah, it's hard to know because I'm like, did they know? First of all, it's Jesus. So Jesus is the reason we have salt. He is the Word of God in the flesh. But I go back and forth, and that's kind of where I am. Instead of me going out there and saying, how do I become more salty? It's a way of instead saying, what am I trying to be other than the salt that I am made to be? So yeah, that's something to think about. There's a lot of wonderful questions, Ron. There's even more, but I think that's enough for us to think about right now. So this is around 6 o'clock, right? So it's 7 o'clock. We will be having our Blue Christmas service in the sanctuary. Again, those are service for those who this season is just hard and need a space where not so much they can get in the Christmas spirit. If that happens, that happens. But just a place where they don't have to maybe put a mask on. Maybe a place where they don't have to cover up the pain and the hard times that they are going through right now. So if that's you or if that's a friend and you'd like to come with them, join us at 7 o'clock. But come back tomorrow too, and we will continue along this journey. See y'all.